Hey, and welcome to my D2L class for history classes at Lone Star College through Brightstar's D2L user interface. I'm going to introduce you to the basic layout of the class and how things operate, some of my basic expectations, and maybe some little helpful tips if you're kind of new to D2L or new to the online learning experience at Lone Star College. So here in front of us right now, we have basic D2L login, and when you go into the class, history in 1302 in this case, you're going to see the announcements page. That should be the first thing that you see pop in, and you'll also get these up here at this little bell icon for update alerts. Announcements tend to make at least once a week, so when they're up there, they're important. I'll also release your test here through the announcements with the timeline and how many attempts you have on them, typically 2. Just keep in mind with the test, and I'll repeat this a couple times throughout the semester for you. It's different questions each time you take it, so don't think you can just kind of cheat the system. That's not really the spirit of things. Anyways, so let's get into the what we're doing in the class here. First thing you should do is go to your content, and on each class I have is kind of this little start here, help me guide, and introductions and FAQ module. That's the first one that you can see, and typically you're going to have a required post as a discussion inside that module first to actually be able to do anything else. So let's start here. You'll see the syllabus for whichever class you're enrolled in. Then I typically use these 3 external sources. Quizzes, if you're not familiar with it, it's just another online quiz platform that I think is a little more casual and not quite as intimidating, and it has some good data. It allows you to have a little more data back as well when you look over and fill in your notes from quiz questions. Quizlet, if you're not familiar with, is a flashcard platform that actually has a little more added on to it nowadays also. There's competition games in here, different ways you can actually sort the data from the flashcard sets that I've curated for you. Just general ways of studying kind of help out with some of the more important terms. And QIA, arguably the most important one, this is where you will take your 3 exams for the class. If this isn't your class, probably ignore this class code on here. Yours for your specific class, whenever you're watching this, will be posted right there inside the Start Here forum. For the 2020 Summer 2 session that I'm making this for, this is actually our class code. So copy paste that before you head over to QIA. If you've taken one of my other classes or other professors and you already have a QIA account, then you know what to do. Hit the login button up there and just follow it through. For new enrollees in QIA, make sure you select student here. You can try to cheat the system, hit instructor, but then you're going to have to pay money. So probably don't want to do that unless you're really looking to make an instructor account. But to access the test for my class and other professors who use this platform, you got to have a student account. All right, so we'll go through that. Yep. Checklist for each unit. These are the ways that I recommend you go through the modules for each of the units. Now I have my classes set up in 6 units, and I do my best to always shrink things down and compile them and compress them in a way that makes logical sense for those who are doing a Bachelor of Arts eventually, or just Associates of Arts, and even for those who have literally no interest in a history class whatsoever, let alone a history degree. I keep them kind of compressed here so that most things are manageable and not overwhelming. So 6 is the hot number. So for this class, 1302 starts with Unit 7. Obviously the first 6 was the first half of American history. So in each of the modules, you're going to see a hyperdoc. In these hyperdocs, I write down the required readings, both from the phone or book, or if you can't afford it or it doesn't make sense for you to have it, you want to use the online textbook, fine, go for it. Use the online textbook, and I have the links there. Then I have what I suggest that you actually read through and kind of fill in your notes, or if there are certain topics that as you read the textbook you didn't really get, or you felt like, hey, that probably should have been covered a little bit more, or I don't understand what we're getting at here, why is this significant? Some of those recommended reading files, typically through history.com or other curated websites and other historical writings as well, and just depends on the topic. Read through those, and I try not to overwhelm you with them, but there can be up to a couple links there. and whichever one you need to read through to get a better idea for, or if you need more supplementary information, read those. Then I have some note sections on there and some recommended videos. Now the videos can be some of my videos that I've made here as well. Sometimes I have recorded lectures that they were recorded in 480p, so they're not very good. So I'm actually redoing them now in 2020 because of this COVID scare. And I'm doing them here in my own studio at home. So hopefully the video quality is a little bit better for those. And also the sound quality, because 480p by itself is kind of awful to look at on anything other than a cell phone. And yeah, cell phones are great and all, but sometimes I get it. You just want to watch things on a 1080p or even 4K screen. So I try to now create my content at 60 frames per second and 1080p. If you know what that is, good for you. Also inside here, you'll have my section PowerPoint notes for those who still like PowerPoint. Okay, there you go. So I make those available for you as well. Sometimes on the more detailed parts of history, say like wars, where you simply want to get like a little more of the fuller picture, I go and give you my actual lecture notes I've developed over the years, and you can use those through PowerPoint or Microsoft Word. However I give them to you for each unit, it can be different. If you need to look through those, get a little more detail-oriented ideas for things and more explanatory approach to topics, fine, go for it. At the bottom, you'll see the Quizlet links for each of the hyperdocs for that unit, and you can go straight into those and just check them out. And that way, if you don't really like just going to Quizlet.com and signing into the class and looking for your particular set that you're looking for the topic or the unit, fine, you can just click straight through the hyperlink inside the hyperdoc and it goes right to it. Also on here, I will put in sometimes a practice quiz. Don't really do those too much anymore because, let's face it, the online learning community is used to them now, so you don't really need that much practice with anything. But I do my best to always have a pretty decent test review at the bottom of each of the hyperdocs. These can include, in addition to the items that you're going to get at the top of the hyperdoc, which are just terms of like, hey, you should know these, or at least be able to discuss why they're important. In the test review section, I'll actually write out, very, very plainly, you should be able to explain how this led to that. You should be able to explain how this historic figure impacted X, Y, and Z. So I try to write it out for you there, and that helps, I think, a lot of students who just aren't very good with history, or those who struggle with the idea of connecting the dots, to kind of fill in their notes and be a little more confident as you go into your exams. For each unit, I have a quiz. So each module should have one quiz, and then every 2 modules there is an exam for. So don't freak out too much on there, but like I say, as you're going through the start here, use this checklist. If you're totally in the dark or you're out there in the blue and you're not sure what to do, start here and follow that checklist. Now, what I do require before the modules start to unlock, because you can kind of look over here and see the time rollout for each unit. So, and like right now, if you click on any of them, other than this first, in this case, Unit 7 for this particular 1302 class, you won't be able to see anything. So you can click on it all you want and send me an email saying, hey, professor, there's nothing there. What's wrong with you? Well, what's wrong with me is that I don't like you to go through and in 1 week knock out the entire class and don't do it with fidelity and don't do it with your own academic integrity. And I don't like to see that you've completed an entire class in 18 hours. Well, obviously in 18 hours of your reading, unless you're just a historical whiz, you probably really didn't get enough to do very well on the test with it. So I kind of do that to help you manage your time for some of those who have anxiety issues, to avoid actually getting overwhelmed as well. And to me, this is the point of the 6 to 18 week class, depending on which course you're in. So trust me on them, how I have them laid out. And if you're really getting a time crunch, or you're thinking, hey, I'm going to be gone for like 2 weeks, so I'd kind of like to knock this out, send me an email and sure, I can release one early for you. Not a big deal. Things happen, life happens. I'm pretty accommodating, and just send me an email through D2L and I'll hook you up. So next up, required acknowledgement class expectations. Pretty standard, but this is where I start any kind of academic contract paperwork. Replying to this particular discussion thread tells me that you're aware of how to navigate through the modules. You've signed up for those 3 external links so that you don't have to send me a handful of emails back and forth on, hey, I can't access your quiz. What's this? just show me that you've read through the thing, that you've read the syllabus, that you know how grades are calculated, you're aware of how to contact me, which is not through just sending me an email at my Lone Star email, contact me through D2L. That way, when I can actually see the class topic there, it actually stays inside your content for whatever class you're enrolled in. So for instance, if I have, say, like 3 or 4 online courses one semester, if I get an email from you, it'll actually show me the content for that particular page. So I can follow along a lot easier if there's, an error. I'm a human. Mistakes happen. As I update classes for each ongoing semester, sure, a link may be broken. Or I may copy paste something and for some reason, my cat hops up and hits the delete key and all of a sudden an entire link is gone. It happens. So contact me through D2L at the top here with that mail icon. Helps me out, helps you out. So help me help you. All right. So once you've acknowledged that, then just about everything will load for your first unit. Below there is our WebEx. Now, WebEx is what Lone Star College likes to use and D2L likes to use. I believe it's at 720p, so for those who are more graphically oriented and aware, yeah, that kind of stinks, but it works, it functions. The audio quality I still think is pretty good, which matters more than video quality sometimes. I'll do test reviews, live lectures on there, discussions, question and answers. At the end of each class, I try to do my best to be available for 2 or 3 hours, as a last minute, like, hey, professor, you missed this grade. Can you go check it out? I'm sorry it's 3 weeks late. Go on, take off 50 points or something, but can I pass your class by you looking at this? I get it. Life happens. So WebEx, you'll click on there and you'll be able to see the calendar for anything that I've scheduled, and I put these in the announcements as well. So that's how you'll actually get into the WebEx stuff. Now, one of the most important spots, the Help Me forum. Now, I'm around pretty good, I think, for office hours, a couple hours a day. I'll check in here, and I leave it running even at the other school I work with. So I'm usually able to see things first. But if you, or let's say I have a teaching assistant assigned to a class, if they see an issue, they can go on and actually reply to it first and help you out. So you can help each other here. You can reach out to me here as well. And if it's an issue that you think, like, am I the only one being affected by this, but I'm not sure, post on there, and others may actually come in and say, hey, I'm having that issue too. And as I see it, it's like 2 or 3 people having an issue. Well, obviously I need to fix something. Again, I'm human. I'm going to make mistakes. We all do. So anyways, that's the basic layout of the class. And let's go on into one of the modules here. Like I say, this is for 1302. So you have your hyperdoc for the 2 units that are covered inside this particular module, the Gilded Age and Progressive Age. Then you're going to have some discussions here. My discussions tend to be a variety of, I really like decision-making activities. They're a lot more fun in person, but I find there's a certain power to reading through them and, hypothetically posing this kind of situation. What would you do if you were this guy or these people? What would you end up doing, and why would you do it? So on these, I'm looking for a thoughtful response. So if you're applying to discussions with 1 or 2 sentences, you're not going to score as high as someone who's putting some legitimate thought into it and they're replying, a full thoughtful paragraph or 2. I'm not saying go out there and write me like a short story for each one. No, but something that very thoroughly responds to the post scenario and defends why you chose that choice. So when you read over it before you submit it, if you're one of those looking for the A and the B in the class, these discussion posts are really important for your grade because there's typically 1 to 3 per unit, and they tend to be worth a little bit more than other things. In my classes, if you look at the points for how each one's worth, that basically calculates right over into the pool. So the more points, the more weight it has inside that particular part of the rubric grade. So these decision-making activities are fun. Sometimes we'll do just a post scenario. Sometimes I just throw it out. I'm like, hey, why do you think it's important that a 21st century citizen know this? And be honest on it. You're not trying to impress me with your words or anything like that, but show me your thought process and defend it. Defend it. Defend it. Be able to make an assertion and defend it. I like to use my history classes for freshmen, sophomores, especially for the non-history majors, as a way of giving you a chance to critically think and analyze things and back it up. I find history, when you approach it as a tool for analyzing something and explaining why certain things happened the way they did, that you remember a lot more of it. I know a lot have come from history classes where you simply do a lot of memorization of facts and dates and put things on a timeline and say, hey, that's great, I've done history. Well, that's not really doing history. History is really using the past as a tool for your future endeavors. So if you're going to become a regional manager of any company, Walmart, McDonald's, a bigger company, great. You're going to be using history as a tool. And those that can't use history as a tool, they have a lot of trouble moving up in the hierarchy inside your company. And it doesn't matter what field it is. You don't believe me? Go test my theory on there and you'll find out pretty quick. Hey, that's kind of necessary to move up the ranks. So if you're looking for promotions in your future, you're looking for management spots, you need to be able to use history. It doesn't matter what career field you go into. And that's what I try to impart on you through my classes. It's a little different than some history classes, I get that. Then you'll have 1 to 3 assignments. And again, assignments you can submit through, doing something on paper and taking a picture of it. As long as I can read on an iPad, great. Because assignments, I will always grade on an iPad. So you will get feedback, usually hand-drawn on there. And if you can't read my handwriting or the cursive on the D2L client looks kind of funky, let me know. But usually I have some generic things that I'll write on there, and if there's some serious problems, I will address them for you. So go line by line with them, and please submit double-spaced if you're submitting a typed paper or a chart or something like that. Make sure there's room on there for me to comment on it with my little Apple Pencil. It just makes everyone happier. So, but if you need extra feedback on it, let me know. But typically, I save a lot of my feedback for those that are really struggling, or those who are doing way too much. I don't mean for each assignment to take you 3 or 4 hours to do. No, you should be able to complete all of them within 30 minutes to an hour at most, and sometimes even less than that. Like for the first unit, it's not really that taxing on any of my classes. I believe in rolling out smoothly and getting into the flow of things. You figuring out how I grade, I figuring how you are as a historical study person, an amateur historian, if you will, and we move on from there. So, if you're not getting enough feedback for your satisfaction, let me know, and I'm sure I can fix that for you. But typically, I'm going to give the more feedback to those who legitimately need it, or those who are doing way too much. At the end of each unit, you'll have a quiz. And the quizzes typically roll out on the 2nd and 3rd day after the unit opens. In your later units, once I figure y'all have put in your due diligence to look through your notes, put some thoughtful ideas into your discussions and your assignments, then you'll see for the latter 4 units, oh hey, the quiz is already there. So if you want to go on and do your first attempt on a quiz, just see where you're at on a unit after reading the textbook, by all means go for it. The reports from the quizzes and the tests only report to me your best score out of your 2 attempts. So you have that in your favor as well. All right, anyways, that's a brief introduction to how D2L works in my history classes. If you have other questions, send me a line through D2L. Have a good one.